We will recap bowl season and Texas men's and women's basketball.
The Longhorns made a strong hire for the next head coach. All this and more on College Pressbox.
Hello and welcome to College Pressbox. My name is Thomas Bingham and I am joined alongside Reese Miller. How's it going, Reese?
It's going great. I'm excited to be back. It's a new semester. How was your Christmas break?
It was pretty good. What did you do over Christmas break?
Saw some family. Got some Christmas cooking. Santa came, so it was a good.
Sounds like a good break. Following the football team banquet, Mack Brown stepped down as the head coach after 16 seasons. The school introduced Charlie Strong as the program's next head coach on January 6th. He led the Louisville Cardinals to back-to-back conference titles in 2011 and 2012 and appeared in a bowl game all 4 seasons as coach. Previously to that, he was the defense coordinator and interim head coach at Florida. Here are his comments at his introduction.
I am so thrilled and fortunate to be the head coach here at the University of Texas to continue the tradition built by so many great coaches, including Coach Royal and Coach Brown. I can't wait to get started because at the University of Texas, I want to make sure that we represent the tradition and the history of this great program. We will work like it's 4th and 1 or 4th and inches more than that, and just make sure that our Texas X's are so happy with the product that we put on the field.
On December 30th, the Texas Longhorns look to send Mack Brown out on a high note against the Oregon Ducks in the Alamo Bowl. Let's go to San Antonio for the highlights. Here in the Alamo Bowl, Texas taking on number 10 Oregon Ducks in San Antonio. We'll go to 13 minutes left in the first quarter. Case McCoy over the middle, intercepted. That's Avery Patterson. He'll take it all the way back to the house, 37 yards, and Texas is in an early hole, 7-0. Oregon fans are hyped up about that one. Still in the first quarter here, 8:36. Matt Wogan makes the 25-yard field goal. Texas defense holding strong. Oregon takes the 10-0 lead. Now Malcolm Brown running right side in the red zone, almost gets it, and he's going to set up this Case McCoy touchdown. In his last game as a senior, Texas is in it. It's 10-7. Now Marcus Mariota rolling out, trying to get some more points for the Ducks, and he's sacked by Jackson Jeffcoat. Cedric Reed almost gets it, but the Oregon Ducks recover on 3rd and 16. Now with 44 seconds left in the half, Marcus Mariota, the shovel pass to Josh Huff, almost went to Texas, and instead he's going to score on him. And the Oregon Ducks are going to take the 20-7 lead going into halftime. Now third quarter. Wogan misses the 32-yarder, and he's keeping Texas in it. It's still 23-7 Texas. Case McCoy trying to lead back with some McCoy magic. Throws over the middle. That's intercepted again. That's going to be returned by Derek Malone. He'll finish off this one and finish off the Longhorns 30-7. He'll take it back for the touchdown in Mack Brown's last game and Case McCoy's last game. The Longhorns go down 30-7 in the Alamo Bowl. Our own Jordan Cannon was at the Alamo Bowl for Mack Brown's final press conference and game as the Texas head coach.
When Texas played Oregon in the Alamo Bowl, the most talked about storyline was that it would be Coach Mack Brown's last game as head coach of the Texas Longhorns. But Coach Brown asked his players and staff to treat it like any other game.
I really haven't thought much about tomorrow. Sally and I decided that we would do everything. We asked our assistant coaches and we asked the players to do everything they could do to help us win this football game, and we committed to them to do the same. So everybody within this program did everything within the last 2 weeks that we would have done last year or the year before. And as far as the future, I hadn't gotten there yet.
The players, and especially the seniors, were disappointed to send Coach Brown out on a 30-7 loss.
Oh, it's tough. No, I mean, there's no doubt about it. We thank you all, and we thank our Texas fans for the way they sent them out. They treated them right tonight, and it's tough. We'd rather gone out with a win for sure.
It's tough not to get a win for him. We love Coach Brown and Miss Sally, and it's tough to see him go. I mean, even though we're moving on, I mean, we are Texas, and so, I mean, this is the place we want to come back to and see Coach Brown, but so it's going to be tough.
Coach Brown had a rule for his team. You get 24 hours to reflect on a game, then you move on to the next one. So will he allow himself more than 24 hours to reflect on this, his last game with Texas?
I don't know. I've never been here before. So I know after I left North Carolina, I never looked back, never thought about any of those games. And since I've been here, I really haven't looked back because you want to be driven and look forward. And I don't know. Sally and I have absolutely no regrets. We've had a wonderful 16 years. We're glad we came here. Those are the memories you have, what you might have meant in a young man's life. So it's been a wonderful 16 years. It's been a great ride, and now we've got to reassess and see where we're going.
Jordan Cannon, College Pressbox.
And we are back. There's plenty to cover regarding the past month's ups and downs of Texas high school football. So I would like to introduce our football analyst, Julian Owens.
Hey, Thomas. Hey, Reese. How are y'all doing today?
We're doing great, Julian. Thanks for being on with us.
What do you take out of the Alamo Bowl performance by Texas?
Being at the game itself, I was seeing a very poor offensive game and defensive game for Texas itself. Oregon held Texas offense to over 236 yards, 58 coming from the pass. David Ash thought Case McCoy played a very great game. David Ash was out. He was with the team, but it just seemed like Case McCoy couldn't put it out. Only 2 interceptions, both of them going in for a pick 6, and Malcolm Brown tried to lure the team in together. Didn't work so much. 4 out of 12 drives that Texas had, only 20-plus yards. That was a very bad outing for Texas, especially for Mack Brown's last game. And Marcus Mariota just seemed like the Heisman candidate that he was supposed to be in the preseason. Over 300 yards. He looked phenomenal against Texas defense, running for over 130. It just seemed like a very bad game for Texas itself.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. Case McCoy in the Big 12 championship game against Baylor, or essentially the Big 12 championship game, and in the bowl game, he threw for more interception yards to the other team than he did to a Texas jersey. I think that about says it all with the 2 pick 6s. Also, Texas had more punts than they did points. That's absolutely not going to get it done like against a high-flying Duck team, 10th overall, and especially when Marcus Mariota's playing as well as he did. I thought the defense played well. Malcolm Brown, over 140 yards, had an outstanding performance, I thought. But in the end, Case McCoy just couldn't get it done. The offense stalled. And like I said, the defense held its own. And one drive, I think, that really closed the deal on this Texas team, besides a couple interceptions, after a 45-yard run by Malcolm Brown late in the half, the next 3 plays were all passes, 2 of them drops, and a 3-and-out. That allowed Oregon to go down the field. As we look at the Malcolm Brown run, that allowed Oregon to go down the field and score a touchdown right before the half, and really put the finishing touches on this one.
We also saw some exciting BCS bowls, including the Sugar Bowl between Alabama and Oklahoma. What stuck out to you, Julian?
To be honest with you, what stuck out to me the most is that Alabama turned over the football 5 times in this game. As most of us seen throughout the season, Alabama does not really turn over the ball. And A.J. McCarron just looked like a human throughout the whole game. Threw 2 interceptions. It seemed like he really was trying to get out there. He was competing throughout the whole game. It just seemed like Alabama's offense or defense could not stop the Oklahoma's hot offense with Knight going in there, throwing 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. It just looked like they couldn't stop this Oklahoma team.
The thing that got me the most was obviously Trevor Knight. You know, this is the guy who was the starter out of fall camp, got injured a little bit, was a little stagnant against West Virginia. We saw Blake Bell take the reins against the Texas Longhorns, had a terrible performance. This is not the same Oklahoma team that Texas handled. I mean, Trevor Knight had 348 yards with 4 touchdowns. Absolute phenomenal performance. He was dropping dimes all over the field. And you got to give guys like Eric Stryker credit, the linebacker on the Oklahoma defensive side. He had pressure in McCarron's face and didn't yet guys like T.J. Yeldon and Kenyon Drake really get going.
I mean, you definitely mentioned Knight, and he's, OU's quarterback of the future. They're definitely lucky to have someone in place for the next couple seasons. And for both of y'all, we all surprised by the upset?
I definitely was. I didn't know who really was going to get the nod as a starting quarterback, but I definitely didn't expect a pretty dominating performance for the Sooners. And give credit to them, they're going to be a team to look out next year.
Well, no one saw Oklahoma being able to run through that Alabama offensive line so much. I mean, putting all that pressure on A.J. McCarron. And that's really why, like you were saying, Julian, that he did look so human in that BCS Bowl, was he just didn't have much time. Now, for the national championship, we saw an incredible game, especially with Jameis Winston stepping up, growing up in front of our eyes, especially in the second half with their team down 18 points. That was such a dramatic comeback. What did y'all take out of this? I mean, what is the future of Jameis Winston and Florida State?
Personally, as soon as I was talking about it when he was a Heisman candidate since the half of the season, Jameis Winston is going to be a quarterback to look out for the next year's draft. I think he will go into the draft, but that's talking too much. We're going to talk about the BCS National Championship. Jameis Winston struggled the first half. It seemed like he just couldn't move the ball. The team was just really staggered. Auburn came out hot. And in all aspects of the game, Auburn dominated Florida State. It seemed like Auburn was the most physical, most offensive team out there, and it just took Jameis Winston to get hot in the second half to just get the game going. And with Javonte Whitfield getting that kickoff return, it just sparked up the game up a little bit more. Trey Mason did a phenomenal game for Auburn. He did pull up his weight, almost 200 yards for rushing, but Jameis Winston just doing his thing, got him the win, and that's why he was the Heisman. He won the Heisman this year.
You mentioned the kick return, Julian. I think one of the main things that sparked Florida State was on a 4th and 4. Jimbo Fisher elected to call a fake punt reverse. I think that really sparked Jameis Winston and gave this Florida State team the confidence that they're in this ball game and they're the better team, I believe, overall. But give credit to Auburn. Trey Mason was phenomenal. I thought he almost put the game away late with that 37-yard touchdown scamper. But in the end, Jameis Winston is your Heisman winner. He's a freshman phenom. He's a guy to look out for. And Jimbo Fisher said in his post-game interviews that he thought this was Jameis Winston's most impressive game because of the struggles early on. I think he started out 5 of 13 in the second half. He only missed a few passes, and the touchdown late to Kelvin Benjamin put it away. They're national champions.
Well, and Florida State ended the SEC 7-year run of 7 consecutive national championships. Florida State ended the BCS era as they started it with a national championship this year. That was definitely an incredible game. Now for the Charlie Strong hire, what do y'all have? What's y'all's opinion about the hire?
Well, for me, Charlie Strong is a guy that you want as the face of your program. Got his first. It was actually a safety at Central Arkansas, so he has the defensive background. He's trained under Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. So if you like those guys, you gotta love Charlie Strong and what he's done with the defense. Had the #1 defense for years at Florida. #2 this year at an underrated Louisville team, top 20 offense. Had a little bit of help developing Teddy Bridgewater with offensive coordinator Sean Watson. He's followed Strong to Texas as the QB coach, so you never know. Look out for the Texas quarterbacks in the future. But overall, I'd say it's a great hire. Maybe not the first or second guy on your list, but he's definitely in the top tier coaches.
Well, you mentioned his defensive mind, and he has been a defense coordinator, as we mentioned earlier, at Florida earlier in his career. He's a great recruiter. He should be a dual threat when it comes to recruiting, because he has that Florida recruiting base, as well as, he can use all the talent in the world here in the Lone Star State, of course. For you, Julian, what qualities would you say he really brings to the table that you're really impressed with?
Well, what I like about Charlie coming into being a Longhorns head coach is he just has that charisma that just goes out there and he tries to win games. As you've seen with him in the Louisville the past couple of years, they won the conference in 2011 and through 2012 and upset Florida in the bowl game in 2013 that most people didn't even believe was going to even happen. But with Charlie, he gives you that charisma, that defense that's just going off. He has a staff that brings phenomenal players in. Most people didn't even believe Teddy Bridgewater was going to be a very good quarterback until this season. And now he's even a top quarterback for the NFL draft this coming season. So I think that Charlie was a very good selection for a head coaching job. He has a lot of momentum to come in for Texas and change this and bring it to a winning tradition that Texas has for the past couple of years and what has been wanting for the past couple of years. So
I think if you're going to look at what defines Charlie Strong, it's toughness and discipline. And it's something this Texas team has lacked, and it needs a lot of in the future. And I think they're going to get it with Coach Charlie Strong.
Well, he's a player's coach, and he definitely asks for the respect of his players. Thank you, Julian, for stopping by. Definitely some wise words regarding all the football that's gone on in the last couple months. And we will be back. Stay tuned after break for coverage of Texas men's and women's basketball. Texas volleyball season came to a disappointing end when they fell to Wisconsin in 4 sets in the Final Four. The 2012 national champions were unable to defend their crown and finish their season at 27-3. Before falling to Wisconsin, Texas defeated Texas State, Texas A&M, American, and Nebraska. The loss snapped their 23-game win streak.
The Texas men's basketball team won their first true road test over the Temple Owls in overtime. Javon Felix rallied the Longhorns late and finished the Owls off with a clutch three-pointer to clinch that victory 81-80. Meanwhile, Texas carried their momentum into their home matchup against Texas State. Cameron Ridley led all scorers with 22 points as the big man, and the Longhorns rolled the Bobcats 85-53 in dominant fashion. The Longhorns went on the road following that victory to Chapel Hill for their toughest test of the season against the number 18 ranked Tar Heels. Freshman Isaiah Taylor led the Horns with 16 points as Texas closed this one out late 86-83 for their biggest win over a tough North Carolina team. Texas finally returned home and was brought back to earth by number 5 Michigan State. Adrian Payne led Sparty to a 92-78 victory over the Longhorns as they pulled away late and Texas fell to 10-2 on the season.
The Longhorns regrouped after a disappointing loss to number 5 Michigan State and beat former Southwest Conference rival Rice in a jam-packed drum. Starters Jonathan Holmes and Cameron Ridley combined for 29 points in the Longhorns' 66-44 win. The Horns followed their win with the Big 12 opener against Oklahoma at the Frank Irwin Center. Javon Felix had a season-high 28 points in the team's 88-85 loss in the Red River rivalry. It was the third consecutive season that the Horns lost their conference opener. The Longhorns headed north to the Sooner State to face number 11 Oklahoma State. It was a competitive effort by the Horns before bowing down to the Cowboys late in the second half. DeMarcus Holland and Jonathan Holmes finished with double-doubles in the 87-74 loss. 5 Longhorns were in double figures in the 4th consecutive loss in the season series. The Longhorns finished Christmas break with a home game against in-state rival Texas Tech. Isaiah Taylor was the Longhorns' leading scorer with 14 points, and Javon Felix added 12 off the bench. Texas overcame a first-half deficit to win their first Big 12 game of the season, 67-64. So, Reese, what are your impressions of the team so far in the first half of the season?
I mean, you've got to be impressed the way these guys play. They play hard for Rick Barnes, and they play fast. I'm talking about Kendall Yancey and Isaiah Taylor, the 2 freshmen. This combo is pretty prolific, and I think you got to look out for them for the next several years in college basketball. I mean, they've just been phenomenal. Now, a couple knocks on this team. Jonathan Holmes has been getting knocked out of games early. Also, Connor Lambert hasn't had the impact that we would have hoped, or that Texas would have hoped for. I think you also have to look at Cameron Ridley, the big man, having some huge minutes, especially late in ball games. Still too many turnovers, which was sort of the knock on the team last year. I think they were brought back to earth by Oklahoma and Michigan State, but this is a team that has the potential to make the tourney, I think, and make some noise in the Big 12, although I really don't know if we're going to know a lot about this Texas team until they face the Iowa State, the Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma State. This Big 12 is loaded. They could have 6 teams maybe from the Big 12 make the tournament, and it's going to be tough for the Longhorns.
It'd be pretty impressive if the Big 12 could have that many teams in the tournament. And you got to think of how they've played against those top 25 teams so far. Not too shabby, in my opinion. So good start for the Horns. Maybe a little slow for conference play.
We'll see. Coming up, we will see how the women's basketball team fared in the start of their conference play. Stay with us. Thanks for keeping it with us here on College Pressbox. After a strong start to the year, the Texas women's basketball squad took on the undefeated Tennessee Volunteers. The Lady Vols dominated and pulled away late in the action and got the victory 75-61. The Horns fell to 6-3 on the year. But Texas rebounded in a big way against Sam Houston State. The Longhorns dominated all over the court and got the huge victory 109-48. Nneka Inimpali led Texas with 18 overall points. Texas then faced Northwestern State in another home matchup. Nakia Jones had a nice night for the Horns with 15 points and 2 boards. Texas rolled again and got the victory 90-60 as 4 horns were in double figures. Texas was going for 3 straight at the drum against an average Idaho team. Nneka Inimpali continued her All-American type of season with 22 points. Texas kept up their momentum and got the W 87-58 in the last game before conference play.
As the new year began, the Longhorns kicked off conference play against Oklahoma State. Nneka Inimpali was one of 3 Longhorns in double figures with a team-high 18 points in the 67-61 loss to the number 11 Cowboys. After a disappointing loss to the ranked Cowboys, Texas returned home to face Kansas State at the Frank Irwin Center. Inimpali finished as the game's leading scorer with 18 points, and Amani McGee Stafford added 10 points in the Horns' 67-53 win over the Wildcats. The Horns looked to carry their winning ways when they entered the battle with Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. Empress Davenport was one of 4 Horns in double figures and finished with 15 points in the 79-74 victory in overtime. After an impressive overtime win against Oklahoma, the Horns took their talents to the country roads of West Virginia. Longhorns were led by Amani McGee Stafford and Nneka Inimpali, but were unable to extend their conference win streak with an overtime loss to the Mountaineers. So, that was a really strong start to conference play. What do you take as they head forward in the second half of the season?
Well, this is a team that I think we saw it struggled against Tennessee, struggled late against a number 6 Stanford team, but then again, they had the lead by 7 going into halftime. So I think there's a lot you can take away from the strong women's basketball start. This is a team that could make a tournament, maybe a Big 12 run, not the strongest conference in women's basketball this year. I think Nneka Inimpali's having an All-American type season. She's obviously this team's leader and the go-to girl, and we'll see. I think the Longhorns have an excellent shot at making the tournament this year and maybe making some noise. The number 2 Texas swimming and diving team took on the number 8 Auburn Tigers in Joe Jamel Swimming Center, looking to move to 6-1 on the year. Junior Will Chandler kicked off the meet with a big victory, 367.05 points for him. Texas was strong in the pool throughout, but freshman Michael Hickson completed the sweep of the diving events. The Longhorns got the victory over the Tigers, 162.5 to 132.5.
The number 2 Longhorns faced off against the number 10 Georgia Bulldogs and beat them 169 to 126 at the Lee and Joe Jamal Texas Swimming Center on January 11th. Sophomore John Murray and junior Clay Lundquist led the way for the Longhorns as they took home their 2nd consecutive victory. Murray finished with 2 victories on the day for the Horns in the 50 and 100 freestyle events. Lundquist gave Texas its first win of the day with his 136.54 at the 200 freestyle. When we return, there will be analysis of the women going off in the pool against Auburn and Georgia.
Thanks for sticking with us on College Pressbox. The number 8 women's swimming and diving team also faced the number 14 Auburn Tigers. Texas won 9 events overall and claimed the victory 168.5 to 129.5. Sophomore Megan Houston led a sweep of the top 3 for Texas in the 1-meter diving event.
The Longhorns then hosted Georgia but fell to the Bulldogs 157.5 to 142.5. The highlight of the event was the 200-yard medley relay, their first win of the day. It involved senior Lily Moldenhauer, junior Gretchen Jock, freshman Brian Wong, and senior Ellen Laub.
Now let's take a look at what's happening in this week in Longhorn sports. Women's basketball faces the Kansas Jayhawks at 7. That's this Wednesday. Then Friday, men's tennis takes on Rice at 6 p.m. Track faces Arkansas. That's also at 6. Then later, women's tennis heads to the Miami Spring Invite.
On Saturday, men's basketball hosts Iowa State at 3 p.m. On Sunday, women's basketball heads up to Fort Worth to face the TCU Horned Frogs at 1 p.m. That's going to be on FS Southwest. And men's tennis hosts Arkansas at 1 p.m. So now that Mac Brown is long gone here at the 40 Acres, what was your favorite moment while he was here?
Gosh, my favorite moment, I mean, you got to look at when Mack Brown brought the trophy back to Austin for the first time in 50 years. I think you got to look at when Colt McCoy was injured in the 2009 championship game, and he displayed so much class in losing to Alabama. And even when he retired, the class he showed, the maturity, the respect for everyone around him, that's what I'll always remember Mack Brown for. And he changed this university and this football program forever.
Well, he's definitely a special individual, and will be missed. My favorite moment was when Texas was down 28 points in the first half to Oklahoma State. Back in 2004 was my first Texas football game here at DKR, so that was definitely a memorable game for me. Just being able to come out of the locker room, overcome that deficit, get those players pumped up when it seemed dead in the water, and that was definitely my favorite moment here during his tenure.
Mack will be missed.
He really will. Well, that's all, folks. We wanted to thank you for tuning in tonight. Tune in for a new episode of College Pressbox every Monday night at 9:30. College Crossfire also returns this Wednesday at 9:30 for the first show of the semester. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at College Pressbox and College Crossfire at College Xfire. For my co-host, Reese Miller, and our football analyst, Julian Owens, I'm Thomas Bingham. Good night, Austin, Texas.